The head in the sand economy. There is a particular strain of rhetoric circulating in so-called empowerment spaces that does not empower. It sedates. It softens the edge of reality just enough for you to sit comfortably inside dysfunction while believing you are evolving. And it rewards emotional participation over tangible action. It is an economy built on reaction. It thrives on outrage, on agreement, on shared frustration, on collective sighing and nodding and yes girl validation that never crosses the line into execution. And as long as you stay inside that loop, you are safe from the one thing that would actually change your life: responsibility. The fantasy of effortless arrival. On one end, you are sold a dream so indulgent that it removes the need for transformation entirely. A dream that tells you that you can bypass skill, bypass discipline, bypass strategic thinking, bypass building anything of substance, and still arrive at wealth, stability, desirability, and power simply by performing the right rituals, saying the right affirmations, or presenting the right version of yourself to the right man. It is seductive because it removes friction. It tells you that you do not have to become more, you only have to appear as if you already are. And yet, even within that space, there are women who did in fact make difficult decisions, take risks, show up consistently, repeat themselves endlessly to audiences who do not listen, and build platforms brick by brick through time, repetition, and endurance. That part rarely gets acknowledged, because acknowledging that would reintroduce the very thing the audience is trying to avoid: work, consistency, endurance in the face of people who want shortcuts. The opposite lie: doom as identity. On the other end, you have a rhetoric that is equally intoxicating, but for different reasons. A rhetoric that tells you that everything is broken, everything is rigged, everything is collapsing, and that your position within that collapse is fixed and final. It is presented as realism. It feels intellectual. It feels informed. But it functions as surrender. Because if everything is already doomed, then effort becomes unnecessary, planning becomes pointless, and your current state becomes justified. You no longer have to act, because action would not matter anyway. And so you sit, fully aware of the problem, fully fluent in the language of dysfunction, fully capable of diagnosing every societal failure, and completely unable or unwilling to move yourself in any meaningful direction. It is awareness without agency, and that is one of the most dangerous positions to occupy. Two extremes, same outcome. One side tells you that you do not have to do anything. The other side tells you that nothing you do will matter. Both remove the necessity of action. Both remove the burden of discipline. Both keep you exactly where you are. When action is introduced, participation drops. Here is where the pattern becomes undeniable. The moment the conversation shifts from "let's talk about what's wrong" to "here is what you need to do next," everything changes. The engagement drops. The energy shifts. The questions stop. The enthusiasm dissolves into silence. People who were vocal become quiet. People who were present become distant. People who were requesting more suddenly have nothing to say. Not because they are confused, but because they understand exactly what is being asked of them, and they do not want to do it. Consumption without application. You asked for more. more uploads, more insight, more content. There are over 600 pieces of material available. 600. And yet the claim emerges that there is still something missing. There is not. What is missing is not content. What is missing is application. You are not lacking information. You are lacking repetition of action. There is a difference between consuming and integrating, between hearing and doing, between understanding intellectually and restructuring behavior. Most people never cross that threshold. They remain in a perpetual state of intake, waiting for the next piece, the next explanation, the next perspective, as if one more video will finally unlock the life they are unwilling to build. The egregor you refuse to starve. You speak about wanting change, wanting growth, wanting to become something different, and yet you continue to feed the same internal narrative, the same emotional cycles, the same identity structures that produced your current reality. You entertain new ideas, but you do not replace the old ones. You layer possibility on top of loyalty to dysfunction. And then you question why nothing moves. Belief is not created through exposure. It is created through repetition, through action, through lived experience that reinforces a new internal structure.
If you do not starve the old system, it will continue to dominate. On value, access, and alignment. Let me be clear about something. There has been a shift. Originally, certain series were positioned to be accessible across all tiers. That has changed. And yes, that deserves acknowledgement. I apologize for the confusion, but I do not apologize for the correction, because the structure now reflects the work. There is a difference between general lessons and targeted transformation. There is a difference between access and alignment. High-level work cannot sit in a space where there is no corresponding investment, because when there is no investment, there is no shift in behavior. People watch, people agree, people feel, and then people do nothing. Why higher tiers exist. Higher tiers are not about exclusivity for ego. They are about filtering for seriousness. They are about distinguishing between those who are curious and those who are committed. When someone invests at a higher level, they are not just paying for content. They are making a decision about themselves. They are saying, I am willing to put something on the line for my own development. That changes how people engage. That changes how people apply. That changes outcomes. The truth about monetization in this space. There are platforms that are built entirely around maintaining your presence, around keeping you engaged, around offering lower and lower entry points so that more people can stay inside the ecosystem, consuming diluted versions of the same core message, paying small amounts consistently over long periods of time. That is a business model. It is not necessarily a growth model. There is a difference between building subscribers and building people. There is a difference between sustaining an audience and producing outcomes. We are not breeding dependence. The goal here is not to create an environment where you remain indefinitely, paying for incremental access, circling the same ideas, and never exiting with something tangible. The goal is to develop individuals who apply, evolve, execute, and eventually move beyond the need for constant guidance, to become collaborators, to become builders, to become women who do not just consume insight, but embody it. We are not building a system where you stay. We are building a system where you grow. Extremes are always red flags. Any platform that tells you that everything will fall into place without effort is a red flag. Any platform that tells you that nothing can be done and everything is hopeless is a red flag. Both remove your agency. Both keep you static.
Both prevent the one thing that actually produces change: action. Decoding without direction is tail chasing. Endless analysis without application is not intelligence, it is avoidance. You can decode every pattern, understand every dynamic, identify every flaw in the system, and still remain exactly where you started if there is no plan attached to that awareness. Decoding without execution is a loop, and loops feel like movement until you realize you are standing in the same place. Real change is quiet. Real change is not loud. It is not constantly announced. It is not performative. It does not require an audience. It happens in repetition. It happens in discipline. It happens in private decisions that compound over time. Less talking, more doing. Final position. There is a divide, not between those who know and those who do not, but between those who act and those who wait. Those who act will always separate themselves, not because they had more information, but because they used it. Let's say this to future Patreon and subs. You do not need more content. You do not need more conversation. You do not need more validation. You need a decision. And then you need the discipline to follow it. Our new content is for decision making. Anything you need to learn can be learned on old videos and through our private links on Patreon. We will point you in the right direction. So many women who took action on our platform say that taking action has made them feel more secure in life. So action above all. Everything else is noise.
The fantasy of spellcasting without structure. Let's talk about the irony that should be obvious but somehow isn't. One of the highest selling products is centered around spellcasting. And yet, the interpretation of what that actually means has been stripped down to the most passive, non-threatening version possible. People hear spellcasting and think sitting, waiting, visualizing, hoping, and aligning without movement. That is not power. That is imagination without infrastructure. Effective spellcasting, real alignment, real manifestation, real change is not sitting still. It is movement. It is structure. It is discipline expressed physically, financially, and mentally. It looks like going to the gym when you do not feel like it. It looks like building your wealth intentionally instead of fantasizing about sudden access to someone else's. It looks like funding your own power in structured places, investing in environments, tools, and systems that reinforce your growth. It is repetition. It is consistency. It is showing up in ways that are measurable, not just emotional. Because the truth is, what people call spell casting only works when it is backed by behavior. Otherwise, it is just another version of the same loop. Thinking, wishing, waiting, and wondering why nothing materializes. You cannot conjure a different life while maintaining the same habits that built the current one. That is not magic. That is avoidance. What to do when you don't know what to do. There is a moment that most people do not talk about. Not the moment of inspiration, not the moment of anger, not the moment where everything is clear, but the moment in between. The moment where you are aware enough to know something is wrong, but not structured enough to know what to do next. And in that space, most people don't move forward. They stall. The truth about being stuck. Let's define this properly. Most people are not stuck because there are no options. They are stuck because they have too many unorganized thoughts, too many emotional triggers, too many outside voices, and no internal structure to sort through any of it. So instead of acting, they watch more, think more, talk more, react more,
and call that progress. Why I had to get your attention first. Let's be honest about something. The Victims to Villains series got attention for a reason. I knew what would pull focus, what imagery would stop you, what conversation you were already emotionally invested in. And yes, there was strategy in that. Because if I spoke directly to what needed to be addressed without that hook, many of you would not have clicked at all. So I met you where your attention already was. But the content was never about them, it was about you. And I said that from the beginning. The pattern you keep repeating. There is a cycle happening that needs to be named. You see something you don't like, you react to it, you talk about it, you consume content about it, and then nothing changes. Because the focus never shifts back to, what am I going to do differently? It stays external. And anything that stays external does not change your life. You already have more than enough information. There are hundreds of pieces of content available, frameworks, breakdowns, strategies, examples. You have been given history, context, patterns, tools, and even structure. So the issue is not, I don't know enough. The issue is, I don't know how to organize what I know into action. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? You stop trying to solve your entire life at once and you do this instead. Step 1. Define where you actually are. Not where you want to be, not what sounds good, where you actually are. Your current environment, income, habits, network, and options. Because if you don't know your starting point, everything feels overwhelming. Step 2. Choose one direction, not 5. Most people stay stuck because they are trying to fix everything at once. Relationships, money, body, mindset, location. That is not strategy. That is chaos. Pick one area and commit to it. Step 3. Create a simple blueprint. Not a fantasy plan, a real one. What do you want? What do you have? What is the gap? And what is the next step, not the final outcome? Because movement comes from small, repeatable actions, not overwhelming plans. Step 4. Remove the noise. You cannot think clearly if you are constantly consuming conflicting opinions, extreme narratives, and emotional content. At some point, you have to stop listening and start deciding. Step 5. Act before you feel ready. This is the part most people avoid. You are not going to feel clear, confident, or aligned. You act first. Clarity comes after movement. Why most people won't do this? Because this requires responsibility, focus, repetition, and patience. And most people are still looking for immediate change, emotional relief, or a perfect plan. That does not exist. The blueprint is not optional. The blueprint is the bridge between thinking and doing. Without it, you stay general. With it, you move specific. And specific action is what changes outcomes. The real issue is not confusion. Let's be very clear. Most people are not confused. They are overwhelmed, distracted, and emotionally pulled in different directions. And instead of simplifying, they add more input, which keeps them stuck. If you don't know what to do, the answer is not more content. The answer is structure, focus, and action. Because at this point, you don't need another explanation. You need movement. There is a version of you that already knows the next step. She is not waiting, not asking for more content, not looking for another perspective. She is moving quietly, consistently. And the only difference between you and her is not knowledge, it is behavior.
See